After violence in the south of the autonomous Papua New Guinea region of Bougainville, efforts are being made to ease tensions. Late last month, a man was killed and the Bowen studios of broadcaster New Dawn FM were wrecked when factions within the Me'ika Mui group clashed. The Bougainville Police Commander Francis Tokura spoke to Don Wiseman about the violence and what the police and government are trying to do about it.
It's been a long-standing issue between factions of the Mekamui. There's been killings been going on for quite a while now, and most recently, this last week, we were down in Buin with Bougainville Police Minister, several other senior public servants, and one of the constituency members from South Central Bougainville. We're basically there to have a look at how we can address this particular issue and come up with some solutions to actually just put everything to rest, make the factions come to a round table discussing if they can be convinced. The meeting we had was quite good. Actually stemmed off from the shooting of Bougainville and from one of the villages in South Bougainville in Buin by a faction of the Mekamui from up towards Konno constituency. As a result of that, the relatives of that retaliated and initially ransacked the New Dawn FM studio in Buin. And that also prompted us to have a meeting actually in Buka, and then every one of us was sent down to Buin with the the veterans, with the president of the Veterans Association, the police minister, veterans member for Central Bougainville, and a few other prominent Bougainvilleans as well.
All right, so you're suggesting that it's all sorted now?
Well, so far we've done what we can. The Veterans Association sat together, had their own discussion, came up with resolutions, and the constituency members for the community governments in Lule constituency, Baubage, Makis, they also had their own discussions amongst themselves and came up with resolutions on how this particular issue can be addressed collectively and make these two factions come to some sort of a discussion so they can put down their arms once and for all.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
So we've got two factions of the Mekamui, and the Mekamui certainly once upon a time was a rigid separatist organisation within the Bougainville Revolutionary Army, wasn't it, or came from that? So
yeah, that's right.
You've got two factions fighting each other. What are they fighting over exactly?
There's a lot of talk going on the reasons for them fighting each other, but it's probably just a misunderstanding on their philosophies on how they are supposed to be working together or staying together as a group. But it's a long story, so I would basically just say that it's a misunderstanding between the leaders of these two factions. That's why they're actually not only two. There's a few other factions in that particular constituency in Konno. They're actually having their differences. That's why it's now coming down to a lot of these killings, and we're just trying to find out ways and means on how we can address this.
What are those ways and means? Because lots and lots of effort's gone into trying to take guns off these guys, and it doesn't work, does it?
Yes. Well, one of the obvious discussions one of the obvious things that came out from the discussion was actually look at how can the government assist, maybe starting projects for them to make them become involved in doing certain things for themselves so that they put down their arms. Instead of holding arms, they do something more meaningful in their communities, in their families as well. So starting projects is one of the things that came about in the discussions, and looking at ways and means of engaging the young up-and-coming youths. Obviously, by this time, you would appreciate the fact that most of the veterans or those who were involved in the crisis have already passed on. Some are quite old. They probably cannot be able to do harm to anybody by this time. So it's the younger ones who are now taking up these arms.
Yes.
So one of the obvious things discussed was for the government to come up with projects, look at how they can help the youths, perhaps come up with educational programs, sending them to schools. Those are the obvious discussions that they came about during this discussion. But it's now up to the team which was set up to have a look at those resolutions and make recommendations to the Bougainville government and obviously to the national government as well.
I guess we can't call these people ex-combatants because most of them are far too young to have been involved in any fighting.
No. It's obvious that they are very young and they're not ex-combatants. They're not veterans. Even the veterans do not recognize them as being ex-combatants. There's only maybe a few of them who are still around, but a lot of them are now very young who grow up during the crisis.
Yes, so they're gangs of youths, basically.
Well, we could say that. Yeah, we could say that, obviously. they're not those who were actually involved in the crisis.
If I could talk about New Dawn FM, they had their studio down there destroyed. Why were they targeted?
There's been some concerns raised about the involvement of, it's still unconfirmed, still trying to get a report from my commanders as to if there was actually anything that could link New Dawn FM to this particular issue, the killing that recently happened. We were just trying to work out why was New Dawn FM singled out during this particular shooting. Obviously, it was burned down by criminal elements, not those who were actually involved in the shooting. And the owner of New Dawn FM is also actually from Konno constituency, and the building was burned down by youths from within Baubake constituency. There are two different constituencies, so we're just trying to do some initial investigation as to how was New Dawn FM linked into this particular shooting.
One of the problems with Bougainville is a lack of communication, so losing the radio station doesn't help that process, does it?
Yes. I'm concerned as well because New Dawn FM has been assisting us, actually, not only Bougainvilleans, but also the Bougainville Police Service in disseminating information from Buka to South Bougainville through New Dawn FM in Buin. And I'm also very concerned as to the lack of communications that we'll be having now that New Dawn FM is in Buin has been burned down. And I feel I'm very concerned for this to have happened. So I've instructed my commanders to make sure that they continue with investigations and get as many of the youths who were involved in this, because it's a law and order issue now.